Back in studio, and this might be the game that launches 10,000 takes. It was lopsided, no doubt about that. Jonathan Jones, you walk away from this one not just looking at the box score and the fact that Green Bay won, but the dominance for 60 minutes that they rolled out. And it has to kind of change your opinions about some things in the North.
It's week one, okay? Everybody has to get their sea legs here. Boy, life after Ben Johnson may be a little bit difficult for the Detroit Lions. And look, it didn't end that well for Detroit and Ben Johnson when you consider what happened in the playoffs last year. However, the fact that they were only able to muster 13 points, that Jared Goff looked fairly pedestrian, that they could not run the football against a team that just sent away Kenny Clark, right, in the Green Bay Packers. All of those things do concern me, as well as the fact that the nucleus, the core of this team, is pretty much together from last year as well. And so I'm not saying that the Lions should have rolled in this game, but you certainly wanted them to look much better than they did, win or lose against the Pack.
When you look at this ball game from start to finish, it felt like Green Bay just had more talent. But to your point, the personnel, the core pieces for Detroit, they're still in place. But the key missing ingredients was the mastermind on the offensive side in Ben Johnson. And the same can be said for the energy and the creativity that Aaron Glenn had on the defensive side that led to a nice lopsided win in favor of the Green Bay Packers. When you look at what Ben Johnson did while in Detroit, the creativity was highly documented. The last 2 seasons, they were one of the more explosive offenses in the National Football League in terms of points scored per ball game. They only scored 13 points, and that was at the end of the ball game. So they didn't have a touchdown for the majority of this ball game. So now you got to get back to the pieces in terms of the drawing board, getting Amon-Ra St. Brown involved. Jahmyr Gibbs only averaged 2 yards per tote. He's a 4.3. That should never happen in any meaningful ball game. So this was a very, very disappointing display with the new coordinators for Detroit. Week one, you can kind of get back to the basics. But for Green Bay, you got a lot of reasons to celebrate and have some cheese and wine.
The conversation will continue here in studio shortly as we take a look at some Jordan Love numbers. They will only go as far as this quarterback will take them, and takes them to a W in Green Bay in week one. For more, we head back out to Lambeau, where the lead voice of the NFL on CBS, Tony Romo, joins us now. A new season, Tony, and looks like a new group of Green Bay Packers rolling out there as they walk away with the win over the divisional foe. Talk to me about the motor you saw from this group in week one.
I always talk about you want to be a team who just leaps off the tape when your opponent watches it to start the week, and that's going to happen going forward. I mean, Green Bay reminded me a little bit of the Lions last year, where you're like, whoa, they are flying to the football, all 11 guys, all 11 hats to the ball. And to me, that you have Jordan Love, you have these weapons, and you have this coaching staff, and you added Parsons, and it's like, but this was really the difference today, was they imposed their will on the Lions, and that's usually what the Lions do. And so this is I'd be excited if I was a Packers fan right now.
I want to go one deeper there, because we had questions on what the scheme might look like with the two coordinators jettisoned elsewhere, but the mentality was supposed to be steadfast in the head coach. It wasn't reflected in the physicality of the Lions. What do you assess in maybe the lack of hammer and nail here for Detroit?
Well, I still think they played hard. I wouldn't say it was anything different. I just think that Green Bay just understood a little bit better conceptually how to work as a team. And you got to remember, there's new guys up front for Detroit, because their signature aspect was their offensive line. They were the ones who imposed their will on opposing teams. And so when big dudes walk out there and they just go ahead and mash you and push you, the game gets much simpler. Goff has more time. He was more rushed today. He handled it fine. But at the end of the day, it was just, there was never like a threat of an explosive play that was going to happen, whether it was from Gibbs, Raymond, even Williams, or Goff. It was just like they had to go 14-play drives and have a chance to get a touchdown. And so they'll shore that up. They will improve. That is Dan Campbell's best trait, is that he will fix things and make this team better. But right now, they are not starting as the same team that they were to finish last season.
Tony, you've been in that building in many capacities across your career and in your football life. It's always awesome at Lambeau, but this did feel like it had a little extra juice. Week one, a new man wearing number 1. Give us a sense of the building and these Packer fans, what it sounded like in there today.
I mean, it was electric, and I actually made the point before in pregame. I was like, man, this actually feels like a playoff game, and I'm like, I know it's week one, and so there's, you know, the anticipation, the nerves, everything coming into week one is real, and that's like exciting for every football player, coach, anyone in the organization, but the fans as well. So that's always there. But this one felt like a big game because somehow I think both these teams felt like this could matter about playoff seeding, division winner. I mean, it felt that way. And for someone to actually kind of take advantage and really just separate a little bit, I mean, that's a big deal for your confidence if you're a Packer fan and a Packer player, really.
Burlington's own Tony Romo, we appreciate you stopping by here on HQ. Looking forward to another great season, pal.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Go Burlington.
That's our guy, Tony Romo, each and every week here on CBS Sports HQ after that 425 most watched window anywhere they're playing football. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson. Nobody does it like them. Nobody does it like Micah Parsons either, and his former compatriots recognize the real. This can't be real, says Trey Diggs. Wake me up from the dream, that after Parsons' first sack as a Green Bay Packer. Back in studio with the guys. You know, sometimes the non-players, we quantify impact by box score. The players on this side, how do you quantify the impact of Micah Parsons in this game beyond just those numbers we saw?
Energy. The energy he provided. When he came out of the tunnel, the atmosphere went to a whole nother level. Just the anticipation, just for all of us from afar, we was watching and waiting for this moment, and he delivered. So I think the energy pack that he provides really improves the entire team. Yeah. But on the defensive side, Rashawn Gary was already a high-level pass rusher, in my opinion. Van Ness is developing as well, but he's still a guy you have to account for. Now you have one of the best in the league also to add to all the weaponry you already have on the defensive side in Micah Parsons. It just makes the entire defense better, especially the guys in the secondary where they have a lot of young players. So this was just an appetizer. Right? I know you love calamari, Jonathan, right? This was just calamari being delivered on the table. The main entree hasn't gotten here yet, but we know it's coming. So when that entree gets here, Pat P, look out rest of the NFC North. It could be ugly for opposing quarterbacks.
So what, by October, you think the main entree will be there?
Yeah, early October.
Early October.
Yeah. He's only 29 reps today.
Yeah, 29
Yeah, he
reps.
should be in football shape by early October.
I agree, man. What the Green Bay Packers did today, they put the Lions on notice that we are here to take back the NFC North. You know what I mean? You know, I know Tony talked about it early on in the show, talking about how the Detroit Lions, they take pride in controlling the line of scrimmage. They wasn't able to do that today. The Detroit Lions gave up 4 sacks, 1 turnover, and only rushing the ball 46 yards.
Yeah,
that's unheard of for the Detroit Lions when they are a team that love to oppose their will at the offensive line position. So I love what the Green Bay Packers did. They fed off Micah Parsons' energy. The crowd fed off it. The defense fed off of it. And it's going to be a fun ride to see what the Green Bay Packers are able to do, because the league is fun when the Green Bay Packers are in the playoffs and making it a deep run.
I really liked Jordan Love's game today, 16 of 22, under 200 yards passing, but 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He didn't have to force anything. He didn't have to play superhero or anything like that. He was trusting that, okay, we're running the rock really well. Our defense is clearly taking care of things, so I don't need to be putting on the cape right here. And so I really did like that from him. To your point earlier about Micah Parsons and how, you know, I do think he's going to get his sea legs. It's funny. Is it because he's not in football shape because he didn't work out much, or is it because of the back? I kind of got a little hazy about the whole back injury, and I think the Dallas Cowboys did as well. But it was good to see him out there on the football field, and the way that he pressured the quarterback. You know, Jared Goff's interception came off of a Micah Parsons pressure. That was his first one. And then him getting that sack, making everybody be able to go back home in Green Bay feeling great about this acquisition. That's why Green Bay was okay sending 2 first-round picks. Rarely does that happen in the NFL. You have to be a very special all-pro type player. The fact that they did that for him at 26 years old shows they expect him to, the trajectory to continue, the arrow be pointed up.
Question for you guys. I know week 1, small sample size, right? But how do you view the NFC North now? Granted, 2 teams have yet to play in the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. But we watched the perennial top dog in Detroit take one on the chin on the road against Green Bay and Micah is not in football shape. So have your views of the NFC North changed?
No, I'm going to tell you, though, the NFC North, they have the toughest, all four of those teams have the top 10 toughest schedule in the NFL.
Pat, you know the guy in Minnesota well, and I asked you when we were watching the game today, at what point when KOC walked into the room were you like, that's a guy, that's a dude? And you told me right away. So
right away.
He's going to keep J.J. McCarthy upright and keep them afloat. You have Ben Johnson, who we are crediting for some of the success in Detroit recently, now the head coach in Chicago. So, Mac, to answer your question, with all those moving pieces, I think there is a clear and obvious number one here in week one. And as we heard Tony Romo say, things can develop. The Lions, we expect them to develop. But this is a statement by Green Bay.
It is a statement by Green Bay. It's still week one, and half of the equation has not played yet, right? And so I can't wait to see what J.J. McCarthy does on Monday night, right? The last time we saw J.J. McCarthy, he was a Michigan Wolverine, right? So it's been a while. So exactly, right? So let's see what happens there. Let's see Caleb Williams, with everything that's been going on with the Chicago Bears, finally in action under Ben Johnson's tutelage. And then after that, then I will be able to, with my chest out, say, let's go viral and say that the Green Bay Packers are doing X, Y, or Z.
I think for me, guys, from afar, just watching and just knowing these teams, as a fan, the Green Bay Packers have the least amount of unknowns.
They have a higher floor.
Out of any other team in the division. With Minnesota, the unknown with J.J. McCarthy. Not just about living up to the billing at the quarterback position, but being able to sustain that level of play. The unknowns with the Detroit Lions. Will they get back to being the Detroit Lions offensively that we've seen over the last few years without Ben Johnson? Will they be a more opportunistic group defensively without Aaron Glenn? And then with Chicago, will your guy Caleb take the reins and really develop and live up to the potential of his skill set? With Green Bay, we know when Jordan Love is healthy, he's a dude. We know Josh Jacobs is a dude. We know their play caller Matt LaFleur is a dude. Defensively, they're better because they have a dude in Micah Parsons that will make the other guys become dudes as well. So that's why I'm it's early, but this is what we do. But I'm kind of leaning to the Green Bay Packers if they can stay healthy because they have the least amount of unknowns compared to every other team in that division.
Are you more comfortable saying that Green Bay's the best team in that division, or are you more comfortable saying that number 2 spot is up for grabs? I don't want to overreact to what we just didn't see out of the Detroit Lions, but we've talked about the competitiveness of that division and likely for our college friends, a 2-bid league in the NFC North. I
think the latter. I'm comfortable with Green Bay. I think if they can stay healthy, I trust them more so than the other teams. But to your point, that number 2 spot now.
It's going to be tight.
Yes.
It's going to be tight.
Because it seems like Detroit is vulnerable. And when there's blood in the water, them Sharks are coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you look at the Minnesota Vikings, you look at the Chicago Bears, because Detroit has had their foot on their necks over the last few years, and they were doing so with a smile. Now the blood is circulating in the water. It's like, now we can go get them.
The run game may be the most worrisome performance here in Green Bay. Again, just week one.
It's just week one.
Frank Ragnow's not there anymore.
He ain't coming back.
How big of an impact was that in the run game, or the lack thereof, here in your eyes?
That's what I was going to say as well. The offensive line. We all know when Jared Goff gets pressure in his face, he's not very accurate or a very comfortable quarterback. So if the offensive line is not the strong part of this team anymore, they're vulnerable. And now you got Green Bay, who has probably the best defensive front in the division. You got Brian Flores, who's probably the best. Exotic pressures. He's going to send blitzes out of the yin-yang at him. In Detroit, you got Dennis Allen, who's in Chicago, who's another prolific defensive coordinator. So I believe it's going to be an uphill climb for the Detroit Lions.
Going to be a fun year in that division. Got some good football teams, and maybe we saw the best football team in the division, at least through 1 week. Green Bay Packers look pretty darn good. Here's a look at that schedule ahead. Again, attrition comes in many forms. Got to stay healthy, got to continue to execute, and sometimes you got to get ready on 3 days rest. That's the reality out in front of the Green Bay Packers as they will take on a talented Commanders team in prime time on Thursday Night Football before a meeting with the Browns in Cleveland, then a trip to Dallas before the bye.